There he is. Are you surprised that I'm on time? Wait, Marty, what is this? We beat that? I feel like I deserve that. What is it for? Oh, for park. Oh, for the judging.
Call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Salvation Army. Salvation Army's not here. Okay. Roll call, please.
Sabers. Rice. Dosher. McCardle. Barrington.
Here.
Allen. Chark. Here. Smith.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. One thing I want to bring forward is the mask mandate. You'd ask to have it on the agenda. It is on the agenda as item number 10, and I understand that you want to take no action on this. So therefore, I would ask that you table this until the next meeting, because I'm guessing there's a number of people here that want to speak to it.
Move to table.
Motion by Mrs. Charks. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Is there anybody who wants to discuss this out there?
Dwight Stadler, 700 West 7th Avenue, Ward 4. I just question. Okay, am I understanding you're not going to cover this tonight and it's tabled till next meeting?
Correct.
So there's no need for us to address it,
Correct. Yeah, I didn't want you to we've got an executive session. I didn't want everybody to have to sit through an executive session and stuff, waiting to do this and then end up with a table anyway, so.
Roger that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Executive session, motion to enter into executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 125-2-3 legal and 1 personnel.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Will be in my chambers.
so they could, you, especially a man in uniform, say, young lady, back home now. You,
Fired before you start? Fired before, I've already started, here's the.
Speaking of-
What to do.
speaking of, congratulating you, 20 minutes. What is it? They got a neat little project going in there on the, I didn't mention this one, just said we didn't do it. Burn night, brought in a sound and lighting, and a band, and musicians, and they're singing Christmas songs, and people. Man, I don't know if this crew or others, but they're going to 3 different nursing homes and having favorite Christmas memories from residents, and they're gonna narrate them. And then they're gonna blend them into the project, a Christmas song, a couple Christmas memories, and then a Christmas song, and then they're gonna play this at those nursing homes on Christmas Eve. And so when they called a few weeks ago about that, I go, absolutely, we can make this, so we got the stage backdrop on and sides and the lights and they got, you know, like a studio, they got a little Christmas decorations set up in the studio and there's lights and cameras and 3 angles and they're just getting ready to start here pretty soon, so. I don't know all of the singers, I think there's 5 different people singing. So, I bet it'll be $15,000 or $20,000. I mean, that crew there, it's about $5,000 a day. That's just to get them here, and then the work. Those folks haven't been able to get out to do much. Or anyone's going to see them either. That's it. Yeah. They may not have a casper, but they can mark you down. They're bigger than me. There you go. Breakfast made. Jets Raiders game yesterday, we fall out well. Last play of the game, basically, felt that the Jets are trying to get a winless season so they get the number one pick in the draft. And basically, I was listening to the game in the last play. They blitzed 6 or 7 people, and they threw a deep one down for a touchdown to end the game. Other than a prevent, right? In most cases, you might throw 3 and have 7 or 8 back, right? Right, they only had 3 back, threw a touchdown pass. We fired the defensive coordinator today. That was not intentional. It was a bad decision. Oh, absolutely. I thought they were gonna.
Oh, perfect. Keep that there. All she was hoping that it didn't get blown away.
Plenty of time, right?
Yep.
I do. Okay, I'll take it tonight. See you right here tonight.
Okay, we're out of executive session. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing on consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove?
I don't have anything I want to remove, but I was curious about how things are going with the windows at the Crafty Fox, I see we're paying part of those.
Oh, here he is. Crafty Fox.
Mayor and Council, Public Works Director Kyle Croce. So Doug is continuing working on the windows right now. He's completed the fourth floor on the north side, which is 3rd Street, and he's just finished up today with the 3rd floor on 3rd Street as well. So he's got the 2nd floor left to do under his contract.
Well, make sure he knows, it just looks so nice. It's hard to believe what a difference new windows make, but it's just like night and day, so make sure he knows that we appreciate it.
I will.
Anything else?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying, whoops, sorry, roll call.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Chark.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input, if you need to address the mayor or member of city council on an item that was not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken this time. Anybody wish to address? Yes, ma'am.
I just have one item. I was asked to let the public know that the city does have signage and available for businesses within the Mitchell community if they need them regarding the mask requirement inside buildings.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody wish to address council? Yes. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Sonia Vanderdwick. I live in Mitchell Township. We're living in unprecedented times. A year ago, we would have never thought that we would be looking at a pandemic, social distancing, mask mandates, all this stuff. And even in our small community, we are seeing an overreach of power and the devastation to families. I've come here tonight with nothing to gain, but much to lose. I've been told by others that I should just stop speaking out, because it is a waste of time because you all have your minds made up. But I can't and I won't. This isn't about me, but about all of us, wanting to have the freedom to decide for ourselves and our families what is best in regards to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because when we have those, we have true health and we have true freedom. Every one of us in this room cares deeply about our community and about the healthcare workers and everything that's going on. And so I want to reiterate that. We all want the same thing, healthy people and healthy communities. However, I believe in a very important piece of the puzzle is being ignored in our community. Where have we been the last 8 months and even years before to talk about prevention of illnesses and promoting wellness by empowering others to make healthy choices? I haven't heard any healthy food or supplement mandates, and I won't go into mass studies tonight because we don't need to debate that, and that won't matter at this point. We hear people talk about life matters, and I wholeheartedly agree with every life matters. I believe God made us uniquely in His image. So if every life matters, what about these older people that have been isolated for months? We have people dying, and the employees are masking up, following the protocols, and none of the residents are leaving but are dying. Don't the masks work to prevent the spread? Now, the CDC came out with a report on their website about loneliness and social isolation. It significantly increased a person's risk of premature death from all those causes. It was associated with 29% increase in heart disease, 32% increase in risk of stroke. In addition, those that were lonely, that had loneliness and had heart failure, those patients were associated with 4-time increased risk of death, 68% increase in risk of hospitalization, and 57% increased risk of emergency department visits. So in South Dakota, 78% of the deaths from COVID are 70 years and older. That's 78%. So shouldn't we be looking at other factors? So what I think really what we should be looking at from the Journal of Nutrients came out saying vitamin D insufficiency may account for almost 9 out of 10 COVID deaths. Wow. So why in the community aren't we mandating vitamin D supplementation and checking our vitamin D level? Now, this isn't just to say that it's all down to one little thing. It isn't. There are many things that we need to look at. So I would encourage all of you tonight to be seriously thinking about what in our community are we going to do right now, today, to increase vitamin D levels in people. I've been supplementing for years. My whole family has. My level's at 67. I'm happy, healthy, and I don't have any problems. I'm going to leave you with this quote. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular. But we must take it because conscience tells him it's right. So I pray for each of you in our community, and let's just all work together to figure out how we can boost our immune systems instead of masking our immune system. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address council?
Sigmund, Ward 3. I guess I'm just here because I was really disappointed to see the video of you, Susan. It's really tough to try and lead people to do something and then you don't do it. And I think what made me even more mad was the fact that the people that showed support and were like, oh, it's okay. It's okay that you did that. We all make mistakes. We all forget. But if we don't wear a mask, we're ridiculed over and over, and we're called names. But it was okay because you made a mistake. And I, you know, it was frustrating to see that because of all the people, I mean, you wanted it. You wanted the mandate, and yet you went and didn't have a mask on and was on Facebook, and then it got removed. Like, oh, it's okay, it didn't happen. And so I struggle with that. I don't wear a mask, and I'm not going to wear a mask. And I have been asked only at one place, and I told them they can't make me wear a mask because I have a medical condition. And they said, then you can't go in. I said, I can go in, and I did go in. But it's hard for people that are ridiculed for not wearing it, and then it's okay for you to make a mistake. And everybody that's on that side is like, pat your back. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
I got two things. This weekend, we had a firefighter that he worked 26 years here for the city. He retired, Joe Dagan, so I thought we should give a little shout out to Joe Dagan for 26 years of being taking care of our community. And the other thing is, shop local. We need people to shop local. Like Dr. Magala says, if we lose one business, that's one too many. We need people. I'm getting emails from people saying, we're going to Sioux Falls to shop. We're doing this. And we need to shop in our local town, keep our local businesses going. And, I mean, you got to wear a mask when you go to Sioux Falls, so just wear a mask in Mitchell and keep your money here in town.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Update from Avera on local impacts due to the COVID-19, Dr. Hillary Rockwell, Chief Medical Officer, Avera Queen of Peace.
Hi, well, thank you for having me. Am I good enough there? All right, I think Rochelle sent out some slides and things earlier today. Hopefully you all got them too. Overall, our daily inpatient COVID patients have actually decreased over the past week. And if you see the slides that were sent out, our numbers of positives have started to go down in the county over the past 2 weeks. So previously, we had over 20 inpatient COVID patients about 2 weeks ago. Now we're down to 10 to 15 when I left the hospital today, which could be different now. The severity of illness is certainly not decreased. We continue to have patients on high-flow oxygen, BiPAP, and ventilators here at Queen of Peace. Overall, in the Avera system, our total number has decreased, although Yankton and Pierre had a pretty bad week and weekend this past week. They're seeing a surge right now. Unfortunately, some of the decrease in hospitalization is due to deaths. We've had an average of 23 deaths a day thus far in December for South Dakota. At this continued rate, we'll surpass November's total of 521 before we hit Christmas. We're projected to have another surge of 50 to 100% increase of inpatient COVID patients in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And we'll see another surge in deaths from that in 4 to 8 weeks if it happens. When I talked to you a month ago, I said we were projected to have a 50 to 100% increase at that time, and we did hit that. Like I said, when I look back at my notes from a month ago, I think we were at about 10 patients in the hospital a day. We were over 22 at one point a couple of weeks ago. So I don't think this had to happen. I don't think it has to continue. I think we can change the modeling, and I think we are. So our numbers have gone down over the past couple of weeks, and this is good. This is because the community has stepped up to take care of each other. The virus is not going away. It's not going to stop on its own. Without community dedication and involvement, the numbers will continue to go up and the deaths will follow. It's not okay to say this is going to happen no matter what. We have to be proactive, and we've started doing that, and you can see the difference. I'm seeing a glimmer of hope in other areas. We do have a new outpatient treatment for folks that are high risk for severe illness and hospitalization that can be given within the first 10 days. It's a single IV infusion. It's called monoclonal antibodies. So we're hoping it will decrease some of the severe illness and hospitalizations in folks that are at high risk to get very ill from COVID-19. And you can always ask your doctor about more information for that, especially if you're diagnosed with COVID. Vaccine is on the horizon. We're hoping to start seeing shipments of vaccine in the next few weeks. Allocations will start with the high-risk populations and the frontline healthcare workers. We have never achieved herd immunity to a virus without a vaccine. We need this vaccine to get this under control. We all reap the benefits of vaccines, and fortunately, most of us don't know what it was like before widespread vaccines. I had a patient and his wife gently put me in my place and remind me that they did know what it was like. They reminded me that I'm blessed to live in an age of vaccines. My patient had survived polio but had long-term health problems his entire life. And they talked about the fears of when they were children of contracting polio and watching family members die or be permanently disabled from it. It was a good reminder. We're dealing with a novel virus, but this is not necessarily a novel time. We look back, our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents survived an awful lot, and we're probably stronger for it. The vaccines will not be approved if they are not safe. The two that are coming out, hopefully this month, Pfizer and Moderna, have also already shown great efficacy. So they're not going to be released to the public unless they're safe. They're also not going to work if we don't get them. So talk to your doctor about the vaccine if you have questions. It's going to be several months before the general healthy public has the vaccine available to them. Like I said, we're going to start with the high-risk populations and the healthcare workers, and go down the line from there when we get vaccine available. So I was here a month ago, just almost exactly, asking for help, and I feel like the community has stepped up. This is definitely not the time to back down. We need to continue full court press to try to mitigate this. And just a reminder, this is a respiratory virus. It's spread by droplets. Droplets are spread when we sneeze, cough, speak, and breathe. A mask helps you keep your droplets to yourself, just like your kindergarten teacher told you. They do not work alone. We have to socially distance, wash hands and surfaces, and stay home when ill. These four things together can help us slow this down. The projected numbers do not take in account community mitigation efforts. So if we can really continue these things and work together on it, we can make those projections of 50 to 100% increase wrong. We can do better than that. We are seeing reinfections of people. People that had COVID-19 in the spring and summer are getting it again. So having it once does not necessarily guarantee lifelong immunity or even very long immunity at all. So if you have had it, you still need to wear a mask. You still need to distance, isolate when sick, wash your hands. None of those things change. Remember, we all have to do it or it doesn't work. Lastly, I'd really like to just say thank you to the community. It's not easy times for anyone. And as I expected, when the people of this community were presented with the opportunity to take care of each other, they did so. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, this is why I live here. We take care of each other, regardless if it is only 1%, only 1%. I've seen so many wonderful acts of kindness and respect for one another. I've seen overwhelming support of hospital staff. There were many tears of thanks and joy shed by hospital staff and patients Thanksgiving week with the parade of students and the cards and signs they made for patients and staff. It was truly amazing. And it was really a lift that we needed at the hospital. We've been on the receiving end of many other acts of kindness. I appreciate the ongoing commitment to each other, and this is really the time that we need to remain vigilant and continue these mitigation efforts. This is nowhere near over, and I appreciate everyone's help. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
When you get the vaccine, how many people can you give it to in a day?
In a day. So we're working that out right now. We've got a lot of teams working on how we get it, how we store it, how we give it. So I'm hoping we'll have our first run through here in a few weeks with some healthcare workers, and we'll see if how our system is working. I think honestly the limiting factor is going to be how many vaccines we get. It sounds like South Dakota or Avera, is going to get hopefully over 2,000 doses in the next couple of weeks. So then it'll be where those get allocated and how they get allocated. Avera, the whole of Avera.
Statewide?
Statewide. Other states, Avera's in Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, and those states are handling it a little differently. So South Dakota is relying on their 3 major health systems to disperse the vaccine. So, like I said, initially we're working on long-term care staff, frontline healthcare workers, and then we'll move into long-term care residents. We have a whole sort of allocation list. As far as how many we can do a day, it's going to be different. It's mainly going to depend on how many we get. When we start vaccinating the general public, and we're getting large shipments of vaccine, then we'll work with the county health nurse, just like we do the flu vaccine, to set up a system to get as many people vaccinated as possible.
Whose decision is it to determine how much we get and how quick? Who makes that decision?
Well, everybody's being allocated certain amounts, and some of that's from the company, the vaccine producers, just how many they have. And I think based on going to states, it depends on your population numbers and everything. Once it gets to the states, like I said, divided it up among the 3 major healthcare systems to get this out to everyone. From there, we've worked with Hospital Association, the Catholic Health Association, looked at CDC recommendations, and they've spent a lot of time. There's been a lot of people spending a lot of time deciding how we do this. We really want to hit the highest risk people first.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Hearings on the following alcohol licenses. On the application of Blarney's LLC doing business as Blarney Sports Bar and Grill for a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license located at 2100 Highland Way, number W, Mitchell, South Dakota. Mr. Coster.
Mayor and Council, Mike Coster, Mitchell PD. We have no opposition to this item.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Anybody in the room wish to address it in the audience? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to transfer RL 5773 retail on-sale liquor license from VFW Post 2750, doing business as VFW Home Association, 215 North Main Street, Mitchell, to VFW Post 2750, doing business as VFW Home Association, 215 North Main Street, Mitchell, due to the configuration of the liquor license.
Mayor and Council, again, public safety has no concern with this item.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Does anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve application for renewal of alcohol licenses. Mr. Costa.
Mayor and Council, no concerns for any of these applicants.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address these? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those Mr. Savers abstains. Motion carries. Action to approve new streetlights at 21st Avenue between Pheasant and Coyle Streets on the 20th Avenue on 20th Avenue between Ullman and Quail Streets. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Kyle Croce, Public Works Director. So these are two requests that we had to put streetlights. One is at 21st between Pheasant and Quail, and the other's at 20th between Ullman and Quail, and we usually do that when we get a certain population on the streets. It has been built, and we do think it's warranted. We have the budgeted amount as well in our utilities.
This is where all the new duplexes are going in out there, as well as I think it's senior living, the one senior living facility.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Church. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award bid for Ash Avenue CIPP Project 2020-11. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is to award the CIPP lining for the existing sanitary sewer. The bids were opened at 1:30 p.m. on October 24th, and the low bidder was HydroClean, and staff recommends that City Council approves the bid to HydroClean in the amount of $287,458.38. This is one of the areas that we have a lot of continuing breaks. It's an older section of pipe, and we recorded a lot of emergency repairs needed in that area.
And your total budget amount is $400,000?
That's correct, sir.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Church.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion?
Have we worked with HydroClean before? Yes, we have. They're a good company, and they've done a good job in the past.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve the purchase of a Marathon CR300K crack router, project 2020-48. Mr. Roth.
Hello, Council. Kevin Roth, Street Superintendent. We are looking, the street department would like to get approval to get a new router. The city of Mitchell budgets roughly $25,000 a year in our track repairs and our roadways. The routers that we use, we burn about 200 hours a year on them. We got 2 of them. Covers roughly 33 blocks of roadway. This is something that we need to do before we do any fog sealing or chip sealing of the roads. So it's a piece of machinery we've got to use every year. The one we're looking at is a 2001, so it's 20 years old. That 2016 number's wrong, but that's where we stuck about $1,200 into it. And we're looking at rerouting a few of our things here. We had $7,000 in there, but we can't find anything even close to that. The quote we got is from Mid-States Equipment Supply. It's for $12,250, and then they need $400 to $600 for freight in there. So we were looking at the $7,000 we had budgeted for this year, and then we're not going to purchase some more. We're going to use one from the park department, I think, yet. So that's $10,750. So that leaves us a little short if we were to get one, but we do have some money remaining in our asphalt mix for this year. We'd like to use about $3,600 to $3,800 of that, depending on the cost of freight. So the staff recommends to the City Council approval of purchase of a Marathon CR300K crop router. Like I said, the quoted price was $12,250 with an estimated, I think it's $400 to $600 freight. So staff recommends purchase of that piece of equipment.
Is that a new piece of equipment?
Yes, that's brand new.
Okay.
Yep.
And a warranty on that too, or?
Yep, there'll be a warranty on that.
Where does it come from, Kevin?
That is from Mid-States Equipment Supply. They're out of Minnesota. That's where we get all of our cracked tar and sealer from. which is usually, we get a semi-load every year. And that's roughly how much, you know, it kind of tells you how much we route with these things. Cutting asphalt's kind of hard on. Go through a lot of bits and stuff, but these small engines like this, it's a pretty good toll on them. I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience wishes to address this item? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2020-46 for purchase of a second mixer for South Water Tower Project 2020-49. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Kyle Croce again, Public Works Director. So this is a request to put a second mixer in the South Water Tower. We do have one, but what we see over the past couple of years is the stratification, and really we don't get the chlorine residual level that we need when we get varying temperatures. So we think that a second mixer in that tank will work, and we also had that recommendation from SBN in the Water Facilities Plan study. So staff recommends that City Council approve the grid V model, and we will have that installed by McGuire Iron in the amount of $18,250, and this is to be done in the spring when we have the tank cleaned.
Why was I thinking that this is in the 2021 budget? Was there a mixer in our budget for next year?
I don't believe we have the mixer in there
Oh.
for next year. We have the money available in this year.
Okay, I was confused.
Kyle, I mean, I was here when we built the tower, and then it didn't work as designed, and we put the first mixer in it, and now it still doesn't work as designed. Did it ever work as designed? I mean,
I think
we're looking at taking another tower down and maybe putting another tower up for capacity reasons. I just want to make sure we're designing them correctly.
I think it's a challenge on where the mixer is and where the intake is for the water. It's a little bit strange on the location of the first mixer. So it's just a strange thing that we've run into. We don't see it in the other tower, it has no mixer. So a different construction. I think the mixer that's in there is small compared to the size of the tank and what we're doing and its location. So we have another mixer on the other side. We think we'll get more mixing in the water level.
Okay. I'll move approval.
Motion by Mr. Ace.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2020-47 Environmental Study for the Norway-Raleigh Shared Use Path Project 2020-23 with HDR Engineering. Mr. Croce?
Mr. Mayor and Council, so this is an agreement with HDR Engineering for their environmental services. They'll provide research on, in coordination for tribal requirements, archaeological research, endangered species, and wetland research for the project at Norway, our sidewalk shared bike path project for next year.
Is this the one that goes under the intersection?
This is on Raleigh?
It is on Raleigh
It
and
goes
and
underneath?
Norway. Yes, yes, sir. So staff recommends City Council approval of the attached agreement with HDR for the amount of $8,717.67.
Kyle, we done one of these studies for the airport too, I believe, didn't we?
We have one done through Medcalf, and that's strictly an archaeological study.
Okay, all right.
But this is part of requirements for the grant that we have, the $400,000 with the DOT to do the endangered species, the archaeological, and the other environmental services.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion?
Not on this, but I do have a question, just kind of curious. Out on 23rd Avenue, there's a bike path was completed with cement, and it looks really nice. Was that a city project, or was that a private project?
The pond is city-owned, It's a city project to continue on with the bike path and sidewalk. And what we'd like to do is tie that into Ullman eventually and all the way down 23rd Street, if we could, connecting the north side and the south side. But it's a nice feature around the lake as well. When we get to the duplexes or the twin homes on the south side, those owners are responsible for the sidewalk on that section. But the part that's adjacent to the pond, that's the city's.
Okay, so then, continuing to the east along the 23rd, because I know when they got to the road, then they took the sidewalk and extended to the south. But as far as right in front on 23rd, do you think they're going to complete that also?
So what we have there is an easement on the south side, and what our plan is to go back and apply for a TAP grant on that section.
Okay.
The application is due in June, so we'd like to get that amount of money funded for the section that's in that easement and complete the sidewalk that way.
Okay. Good.
Okay, further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2020-79, a plat of lots 62 and 63, the Maui Farms Second Edition, the subdivision of southeast quarter of Section 31, previously platted Lot 4, in the east half of the west half of Section 31, Township 103, or 104 North, Range 60 West, 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Mr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. You probably saw in the planning commission minutes that they did review this one. This was, you may recall, I think it was at the last meeting or perhaps the one before that. Basically what happened is the owner or the prospective owner redrew some old construction there so that the interior line just was moved. The exterior is still the same, so it's just the separating 52 and 63 is a little different. Or I shouldn't say dramatically different, but moved the lines a little bit, so. That's really the only change from last time. Planning Commission recommends approval.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2020-80, plat of Lot 46 of the Island First Edition subdivision of the southeast quarter, Section 31, Township 104 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota.
Again, the Planning Commission did review this plat and did recommend approval. You can see that it pretty much follows the master plan of that area.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action on Resolution R 2020-81, a plot of Lot 55 of the Island First Edition subdivision of southeast quarter, Section 31, Township 104 North, Range 60 West, 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota.
Again, Planning Commission reviewed this plat and recommend approval. It's kind of the same development.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mrs. Charks,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Second reading of ordinance 020-2014, amending department head titles and departmental organization. This, of course, is for the police chief, fire chief.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that, because at the bottom of the staff, or the report, the language of the 17-6 Golf and Cemetery Division is written on there, but this does not include those changes.
It does not include that. That was in case you, as a council, wanted to amend that
Right.
one as well, which we had discussed previously, but my understanding is you do not want to amend that, so it does not include that.
Thank you.
You got anything to add, Mr. Johnson?
You nailed it.
All right, I'm learning. Okay, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt the ordinance 2020-14.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Rice, second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance 2020-15, supplemental appropriations. Mrs. Elwine, are you going to speak to this one?
Yep. Included in your packet is the supplemental appropriation ordinance. This would be for taking funds that are designated in reserves for the intended purposes as listed on the staff report. The first one being the Veterans Park. We had about $4,560 worth of maintenance expenses this year. We do have money earmarked in the general fund reserves that was received from donations for those future costs, so we'd be taking it out of that. The next one would be municipal buildings for COVID-19 supplies, up to $50,000. That's for all the purchases made to equip employees in buildings, the signage that was discussed earlier that we did order for businesses if they needed one available. A little bit different, but I just wanted to go over this. I want to make sure I wasn't missing one here. On the transfers out, every year the city transfers money out of general fund into several of the different operational or special revenue funds. These three here, what we discussed doing was just giving an authorization of up to $200,000 for each of the ones listed, which would be the Park Fund, the Corn Palace Fund, and the EMS Fund. The transfer would only be made if the cash fund is negative. And those are largely due to revenue shortfalls that occurred due to COVID-19 this year. We had basically nothing happen in the Corn Palace for, 6 months. It felt like 6 years. I know it hasn't been that long, but 6 months. EMS, it looks like we're going to end the year well, but just in case something goes bad here at the end of the month, if we have increased calls and we're not getting revenue collected quickly enough. And then Park Fund, I also think that they're going to end the year okay because the Park and Rec Director, Nathan Powell, did a very good job of cutting back on expenses when their revenue was short. But because this is an ordinance and requires 2 hearings, we need to have the authorization to do it if necessary. And I also did not want to allocate it out of contingency because that would really deplete contingency, not knowing what's going to happen in the next month. So that also gives you some flexibility with your contingency through the end of the year. All 3 of these would come out of funds that we've already received as a CARES Act reimbursement.
So this sets you up for the second reading on the 21st?
Correct. And then the last one here we had, this is going to sound kind of different, but we're actually just taking money out of reserves of the Park and Rec Fund to do things in the sports complex. And the reason why there'll be money in those funds is because Nate cut back on some of the capital projects that were budgeted in the rec center. And council already has approved that previously when you approved the repair of the roof at the ice arena. They did not fill in the pool and do that other capital project. But because they're in 2 different budgets, we still have to have the authorization to spend the money. So that's what we're doing there, so we're not having to tie up contingency. And then the last one, the 911 fund. Most of these are because we had a period of time where we were trying to just cover shifts. And so we had a lot of overtime. We had part-timers that were working full-time schedules. And then we did have a couple of retirements in there as well. And then the roof repairs. The roof repairs council approved earlier this year coming out of reserves of that fund. The other 3 would be coming out of CARES Act money that we've already received for those wages and benefits. So I was hoping to give you a good explanation this time so that hopefully if you have any questions that come up between now and the next time, we can get those answered.
Okay, one quick, the roof repairs we split amongst fire, police, and 911?
Yep. But
So
at this
those
time,
equal amounts in there?
yep, but at this time, it doesn't look like, I don't know if I'm going to actually have to do a contingency transfer for police and fire because it just depends on how they end the year.
Okay.
You'll see the contingency resolution at the next meeting. I did run a report, and I have a list of those that I'm kind of watching that I think are going to need it, and we're still well within what you have approved for contingency, and especially because currently we're still at our budgeted revenue. Even though we went down a little bit again the last 2 weeks, we're still within what we budgeted for 2020. Yep.
On
Third penny, we're not close, but we're not
on the
anticipating.
CARES Act, do they have guidelines on what you can spend it on?
Yeah, we already did that. When they gave us our allocation of 3.5, they have very limited purposes for what you could use it. We went after the easiest one, which was our wages and benefits for police, fire, and EMS. We also submitted any COVID leave, so we had a period of about a month where we were averaging between 20 to 30 employees out on COVID leave, so we did get reimbursed for all that leave. The general public, the businesses can submit it through their taxes. Government was exempt from that, so we were able to get reimbursed through the CARES Act.
Is there a deadline too?
December 31st, and I
Of
think,
spending?
yep, we have to have everything spent before the end of the year.
And if you don't?
We will. We'll have 100% of our spent. And actually, we had extra expenses lined up, hoping that they were going to reallocate the funds from the cities that didn't spend their funds. We had probably 4 conference calls on that, and the state never made a decision that I'm aware of. They never did reallocate. We did submit our air purification, which, as you know, the total cost is between 100, I think it was about 150 when we added the ice arena in. And we're maybe going to, I think they said like 10,000 was eligible, just police and city hall is all they would cover. So, but the good thing is because we did have fire and EMS and police, we were able to submit those expenses. You'll see other cities who didn't have a full-time fire department that weren't able to fully expend their funds because of the restrictions that were placed on how you can use it.
And the state's now announced a $19 million surplus.
Yeah. So we went after the safest way to get the most reimbursement possible, and you really owe a lot of thanks to Michelle. Every time she sends in a payroll check or a payroll report, they change it, or they give her a new auditor and she has to start over. So
Is the city, the CARES Act, is that any different than the private funding?
yes,
The PPP
much
lot?
different.
Okay, that's what I figured.
100%. We did actually, we had the Corn Palace and JVCC trying to apply for the small business grants for those that lost revenue, because those do operate like a business, and those were both turned down.
Stephanie, if we don't need to transfer the $200,000 to any of those 3 entities, for example, then what do we do with that money?
It just stays in general fund reserve, and I'll keep it listed as CARES Act funds, and then council can have a decision. My recommendation to you is going to be don't do anything before the first quarter of next year. Let's see how revenue comes through so that you're not having to use contingency to balance in 2021. Also, we had a lot of unknowns when we passed our budget, so you may need some of that for cash applied and stuff. So we'll take a total of where you're at, and I sent you an update of tracking of how much we've received, how much we've requested, and how we've used those funds so far. I'll put some information together so you as a board can look at the total of what's left over in contingency, if any, and what do you have left in CARES Act so that you can make a decision on what to do with that. And that could be anything from designating for future capital projects or, whatever you choose to do.
Should we end up with some excess, we have some ideas on what we need to do with it. So don't worry, we'll spend it all.
Well, the reason I'm confused is because I thought there were such strict requirements, and yet we have this money that is CARES Act money that we may or may not use, but we can keep it?
Well,
No, this is money we've already applied for and gotten.
Yes.
So yes, there are strict requirements, and it's very difficult to get it, but they've already approved this money to
Right.
us.
And what, I can pull this up for you if you're interested in seeing it. I have that track that I've been doing. Basically, instead of trying to go, we did submit all the supplies and everything that we could, all the foggers that we bought, the disinfectant, the plexiglass, all those kind of things that we did. But after that, it was submitting wages and benefits. I did have Michelle hold back for just a little bit because we were hoping to try to get more of the air purification system covered, but they're pretty clear they don't want to do that. So
Mrs. Baskey sees our receipts in her nightmares.
yeah, so here's where we're at so far. So you can see, that's really small, I apologize. Me and spreadsheets, So this is everything that we've submitted for on the left, on this column here you'll see. And then the status, and then how much we've been awarded. So out of the $3.5 million that we were allocated, we've been approved for, and those got switched to approve, I didn't move that, 3.2 million. So you have about $218,000 left, and that's without that air purification being resubmitted, and Michelle will have additional payroll because this is through October. So we'll have November and December and any other COVID leave that comes up for employees and wages and benefits for police, fire, and EMS.
So like the police wages, it's just like PPP, they pay for them? Is that what am I reading this right?
We paid for any of the masks and PPE. Some of that they got through the state too, and we didn't have to pay for it. But anything that the city purchased for COVID, we tracked in that COVID supply line. That's why you have one reimbursement going for COVID supplies.
Yes, and we do get reimbursed wages for fire and police.
Yeah. And here you can see the split between what we've received so far, which fund it's going into. You previously approved the $200,000 to go for the air purification. Then you have the SCBA equipment. And then we've got $600,000 of transfers out that we're discussing right now, the municipal building supplies. These are the other ones that I have no idea, but just looking at the 2020 budget, I don't think we're going to have a revenue shortfall. I don't think we're going to need that. I don't think we're going to need to transfer to EMS, but who knows what could go wrong. So I think you're going to have probably over $1 million left that hasn't been spent yet out of the reimbursements that we received for the CARES Act, because we've already gotten that part. Mud, right? Yeah, and I can answer any questions between now and the second reading too, if anybody wants more clarification.
Okay, we'll entertain a
Motion
motion.
to place on first reading.
Motion by Mr. Smith, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion?
One question, on Stephanie's report that she sent out to us on Friday, I see we've got, nothing to do with this, but should have mentioned that probably in citizens' input, but we do have our lake home for sale.
We do. You'd look good in that, $3.5 million.
That's a bargain.
It is, for what you're getting.
For what it costs to put that up, as our understanding is, it's 50 cents on the dollar. So hopefully there's somebody out there that would be willing to purchase it, and it is quite a bargain.
And yes, it is on the market. It is on the multiple listings. We did choose Exit Realty. A young man approached me from Exit Realty. Exit Realty made sense because they have a nationwide listing. They cover a large area, which is part of why they were selected. I also have personal ties to Fisher Rounds that I didn't want to give a look of impropriety. It is a multiple listing though, so anybody can sell it. Any realtor in South Dakota, I guess, technically can sell it.
And then obviously we can't commit to anything in the future, but it was the intent of the council when we purchased that once it is sold, that money is going to be retained in the watershed.
Correct, for use in the lake.
Again, obviously it could be changed, but I think it's just it's been a while since we've talked about that.
It has been, and we had initially had just for council's information, as long as you bring this up, we did have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday, but with everything that's been going on, that had to be canceled as relative to Lake Mitchell and work going on in Lake Mitchell, so we had to cancel that. It will be rescheduled for sometime after the first of the year. There's a lot of moving parts to that. We've got to wait to kind of get them fixed in position, so. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second on first reading. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. First reading on ordinance 2020-16, creating the Golfin Cemetery Board. I'll give this to Mr. Johnson, but let me preface it by saying, in our recent research, we found out that the Golfin Cemetery Board was not official. So Mr. Johnson's going to help us make it official.
Well, you started off right where I was going to.
Oh, sorry.
So if you remember about a year or so ago, we were dealing with other boards that had been out of use and, needed some reorganization, that kind of stuff. And this kind of grew out of that research as we were putting together the list of all the membership and everything. We weren't able to figure out, or find anywhere where the Golf and Cemetery Board was actually created or approved or anything like that. Obviously, it's been operating for quite a while, but it's been doing so, I guess you'd say, informally. So this ordinance would formally establish the Golf and Cemetery Board and give them some powers and duties. The language of the ordinance itself is consistent with other boards that we've got. Some of the language comes from the Park and Recreation Board, some of it comes from Corn Palace Board, and a few other ones that we've got here, but sets out the rules for the membership, the terms, and all that basic stuff. So unless there's any specific questions, I'll turn it back over to council.
Does the board, that's there, automatically get assumed the same terms and where they're at?
Yeah, so I included language in there that the current board members finish out their terms. So.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve on first reading.
Motion by Mrs. Church. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. We're adjourned. Way to make sure. You know how hard it is to find people for these originals.
Hey. Tell Nathan I need those books. Oh. Thank you. He's probably on a scooter already.
Catching any kitties?
He's scooting.
Catching any kitties?
No, but I gotta talk to him. I gotta take care of him. I took him care about 4 o'clock.
Good job.